So today we're going to find out how my little 1 litre EcoBoost Fiesta actually drives. A couple of videos ago I got this car on the road and through an MOT, so it's time to find out what this thing is actually like to drive. It's a Mark 7 Ford Fiesta Zetec S with a 1 litre EcoBoost engine, but this isn't just any Zetec S, this is a black edition, meaning it's got a 140 horsepower version of the 1 litre EcoBoost engine. That's only 10 horsepower less from factory than my Mark 6 Fiesta ST with a 2 litre naturally aspirated engine. So I'm interested to find out what the EcoBoost drives like compared to my ST. This is actually a black edition. I just chose to wrap over the red bits in the last video. The whole point of me buying the Mark 7 was just so I had a daily runabout to get me around while I went a bit mad with the mods on the ST. I've also got to do some pretty serious engine work on the ST. The whole engine's got to come out, it needs to be rebuilt. I'm pretty sure the piston rings are worn, it burns a lot of oil. It's just no good at the minute for what I've got planned for it. So that's one of the reasons why you get to see a lot of the mods that I said I had planned for this car. And the other reason is because the work that I needed to do on this car was a lot more serious than I first thought. I thought this was just very minor accident damage, but it turned out I needed to rebuild the whole engine because it overheated, it blew the cylinder head gasket, it warped the head, it did all sorts of nasty stuff. And if you've been following the videos, you've been subscribed for a while, you'll have seen the rebuild on the Mark 7. But it's finally on the road, so in anticipation for getting some mods done on the ST, it's time to find out how this actually drives and see if it can prove to be a reliable daily runabout so I can actually use it and take this off the road. So hopefully there'll be a lot more videos coming on the ST soon, but for now, it's the first drive of the Mark 7. Okay, so jumping in the Mark 7, it's time to head out on the first drive. Well, the first proper drive. I have given this car a couple of miles just around locally where I live, but this is the first time I've really taken it out to see what it can actually do and see what it actually drives like. So I'm probably going to end up comparing this a lot to my ST, because it's the only other car I've really driven for any length of time over the last, what, like maybe 3-4 years, I think. So I am going to compare this a lot to the ST, even though they're two totally different cars. This is like the smallest engine they do in the Mark 7, whereas the ST was the top of the range model. So it is a big difference, but nevertheless, I'm probably going to end up comparing them. So that's just how it's going to go. One thing you'll probably notice straight away is the noise this car's making, the exhaust. It's not too bad, some of you may like it, but for me, it's just way too loud. It's really not what I was looking for. This is meant to be my comfortable, quiet, daily driver, whereas my ST is my sort of noisy, fun car. So to start with, I'm just going to drive into town along the main road and just see how this car's driving sort of at normal road speeds. Now, like I said, I have done a few miles in this car already, and there's a few things that I've noticed straight away. And the most notable of those is the gearing for me is just totally different to what I'm used to from my ST. This car always seems to want to sit sort of 1 gear lower than I would be sitting at in the ST doing the same road speed. Mistaken, I think some people actually fit the 5th gear out of this gearbox into the Mark 6 ST gearbox, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what Ted, that Frozen Fez, has done with his. And I can see why, because when you do get up to sort of cruising speed, this car seems quite comfortable sitting at, well, 60 mile an hour, and it's revving a lot lower than I know my ST would be doing at the same speed. Another thing I've noticed, if you do want to speed up, in my ST you can pretty much stay in whatever gear you're in, just put your foot down and it'll start to go. In this you definitely do have to change down because you want it to be getting into boost. Remember, this is a turbocharged engine, albeit a completely different sized engine, so it is going to perform differently, and I know a lot of you will probably be expecting that anyway, but it's just something that I've noticed from driving it around is that I've always got to change down a gear. Also, roundabouts and things like that, my ST can quite happily, you know, pull onto a roundabout as long as I don't have to stop, just happily in 3rd gear, go all the way around, and it is perfectly happy. This, pretty much any junction, roundabout, anything like that where you're slowing down and don't stop, it's going to be 2nd gear in this, whereas in the ST, like I said, you're quite happy a lot of the time just staying in 3rd gear or whatever. But yeah, this is definitely always, it doesn't matter where you are, it always just seems to want to be one gear lower. You can quite happily drive this around at 60 mile an hour, still be in fourth and not realise that you've still got one more gear to go. It just seems a lot more comfortable one gear down. Also means that you kind of got to work for the power as well. I don't mean that in a sense that this is like a performance car. I know some people say that like Honda Civic Type R's, you have to work for that power because you have to get it high up in the revs and all that sort of stuff. I know it's nothing like that, but because of the turbocharger you need to get that to spool up in one of these, then you definitely do notice that compared to a naturally aspirated car. Like, these are all things that I'm guessing a lot of you will think, well, yeah, that's obvious, you should know this, but like I said, the ST is the only car I've really put any miles in over the last 3 or 4 years, so getting used to driving this is, you know, it's taking some time for me to get used to how you actually need to drive a car like this. But yeah, you really do have to sort of work for the power and let that boost build up. When I first ever jumped in this car, I thought, oh my god, this is like really slow, like a lot slower than I was expecting, but it's just that you have to get used to how it drives, I suppose. So we're just going to let the car warm up for a little bit longer and put a few more miles on it, and then we'll get into seeing how this car feels sort of performance-wise. I've said it already, but you know, I know this car isn't going to be like performance by any means, but it is 140 horsepower from factory. The ST is 150, so I'm just curious to see if it feels anything like that when I start to put my foot down a bit. Now you can hear that exhaust just there, and it really isn't what I wanted from this car. It doesn't sound too bad, but it's just not what I want from this car. When you're doing like slow speeds around town, going through like Mackey's drive-thru or something like that, it sounds horrendous. So that is definitely something that I'm going to get changed, and it's hopefully going to be getting changed this week. I bought a silencer just to be welded into the mid-pipe, and hopefully one of the guys at work is going to sort that out for me. Yeah, it's just too loud for me. As a second car, as a daily driver, just no. Now I've just got a nice open stretch of dual carriageway, and this is one thing that I've been super impressed with in this car, and that is just how comfortably it seems to cruise. Like, my ST would be revving at over 3,000 RPM right now, sitting at 70, and it would be making one hell of a noise. I mean, this is a little bit noisy because of the exhaust, but it is just so comfortable sat at this speed. Like, I think it's going to be a lot nicer to drive on longer journeys, which is another reason I kind of wanted a more quiet, comfortable car, because the ST like just is not nice if you have to drive it for a good few hours to get anywhere. Like, it is not nice. So this is already ticking that box for me, really. Like, I am enjoying this, especially, like I said, at those sort of cruising speeds. But now we've turned off the dual carriageway, it's time to see what this car's like when you put your foot down, because 140 horsepower for a 1 litre car was crazy in my mind when I first heard about it. And I had a 1 litre car when I first passed my test, and if it drove anything like I'm expecting this to, then I would have been blown away by it, and I would have loved it even more than I loved my first car. But I think you've got to love your first car, haven't you? But a 17-year-old jumping in one of these as their first car with 140 horsepower, I'm just dying to see if it feels anything like that figure. So we're going to head off to some B roads, and I'm going to really put my toe down and put this car through its paces and see what it's got to offer. But before I go B road bashing, I think I need some fuel. Not for the car, some fuel for me. So something that I tend to do in every car the first time I drive it is normally go and get some food, and I'm guessing a lot of people probably sling their car through Mackey's drive-thru. I did actually try this the other day, because this is the second time I've attempted filming this video. The first time I tried using my phone because it was the only way I could figure out to mount something on the dash, but I've actually managed to mount my proper camera now. But I did go through Mackey's drive-thru and did a little bit of a food review while I was there, so I'm just going to share that clip with you, and then we'll go and get something else for this drive. Now, if we're going B-road bashing, then maybe the car doesn't need fuel, but I certainly do. Plus, this is a first drive video, and I've brought most of my cars the first time I've driven them, or one of the first times I've driven them. to McDonald's. So we're gonna go and get some scran before we go B-road bashing. Now this is an EcoBoost, and it's only £20 a year to tax, so that should mean it's quite environmentally friendly. So sticking with that theme, to try and keep Greta happy, we're gonna go for a McPlant. Not because I want one, but because I've got a free one, and trust me, with the mod I've just bought for my ST that you'll see here shortly, then I'm gonna need to save all the pennies I can. Exhaust sounds horrible.
What can I do for you today, man?
Hiya, I've got a sticker for a free McPlant. Can I get that, please?
I'll go for something else with my McPlant if I were you.
No, I want to give it a go.
Shocking. Come on round then.
Cheers. They told me not to go for the McPlant. I didn't think I had the option. It just says McPlant, but looks like we're getting it.
I can change it to something else if you want a Big Mac instead of free.
Nah, it's alright.
Sure.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm only here to use it, see what it's like.
Trust me. Take a whiff of it as soon as you get it. Open that back.
Really? Is it that bad?
Just take a whiff.
Brilliant. Okay, so the storage on my phone is completely full, so no more dual camera. I'm just filming this on the main camera, sat on the dashboard, but there's no way it's going to stay there for the rest of the video when I start driving again. But thought I'd update you on the McPlant in just a second. The chips today are on point. That McDonald's is normally a bit hit and miss with chips, but today, pretty good. Right, okay, moment of truth. Let's see what this McPlant thing is all about. The guy said to just take one sniff of it before you even attempt to eat it. Doesn't smell that bad. I don't know what he was on about. He said he would have given me literally anything, like is it cheeseburger or a Big Mac or whatever it is you get on the free stickers. He said he would have given me any of the normal ones if I didn't want this, but you know, I'll try anything once within reason. There's a lot of sauce and a lot of veg on it, so let's try the actual. Now, you know what, Greta, you can keep that. I'm gonna go get a Big Mac. So yeah, the McPlant was a bit of a disaster. So for attempt 2, I'm gonna go and try something a little bit nicer that I just know is gonna be guaranteed to put a smile on my face. Now there are a couple of other little things that I've noticed since driving the car around that I've either got to address or some of which I've actually done already. So when I first started driving this car, the little trip computer display with the mileage and everything, MPG, all that just did not work at all. I found once the car got warm, sometimes it would kind of flicker on a little bit, but the information it displayed wasn't always complete. Sometimes there were some pixels missing, some stuff like that. I tried to find just the screen to be able to replace it, but in the end, that was just going to work out way too expensive, and what I ended up doing was just buying a new set of clocks, well, a second-hand set of clocks off eBay, and just stealing the screen out of those because it just worked out cheaper. There are a couple of other things as well, like the volume dial on the radio just doesn't seem to work. You can get it up to like 2 or 3, and then it'll just drop back down to 0 even though you're trying to increase the volume, so that doesn't work. And also the steering wheel audio controls just didn't work at all. Now, I've been having to play with ForScan over the last few days. I decided to download the ForScan software, get myself a license and the little USB adapter to connect my laptop to the OBD port. So I've actually been playing with some of that, and there's a few things I've managed to actually code into the car. So the steering wheel controls for the radio, it turns out they just weren't programmed. So I'm wondering if someone's tried to add them thinking they can just plug like the controls with the trim in and that it'll just work, and haven't programmed it in. But I've managed to program that in and it's now working perfectly. Another thing, the little like 3 flash indicator thing, like they call it one touch or something like that, just when you tap the indicator lightly, it's supposed to flash 3 times. Yeah, that didn't happen in this car, and I had to code that in with ForScan. On my ST, you can do it on the trip computer, but on this, no such thing. So I've coded that in with ForScan as well, and a couple of other little things, just like the auto lock when you go over a certain speed. I thought that was pretty cool. I've just been having a look through it to see what else I can actually set up. Now, the main reason I decided to get all the stuff to use ForScan, well, you'll see that in the next video. It's something a bit more exciting than those things I've just told you, and it's something I'm definitely going to need for an upcoming video. But yeah, those are just some things that I wanted to update you on that I'd noticed from driving the car around. But other than that, everything seems pretty much a-okay with this car. So again, really happy. Okay, so I've pulled up just quickly before we go and hit the B roads for the second food review of this video. There's a little chippy local to me that does amazing Greek food, so that's what I've gone for this time, none of that McPlant nonsense. So what I've gone for is a chicken gyros, which is kind of like a Greek kebab. There's chicken in there, there's chips, salad, and this amazing Greek sauce. I don't know what's in it, but that tastes unreal. So I'm gonna tuck into this, get some fuel in me, and then we can go for the rest of the drive. Oh, that's amazing. That is incredible. Oh, and that place also does the best halloumi fries. Right, that's enough mucking about with food for one day. It's time to hit the B roads. Okay, so the car's now warmed up, so it's time to find out how this little 1 litre EcoBoost actually performs. There's actually nothing behind me right now, so I'm gonna slow down a little bit, just get down into first gear, because there's plenty of space here. I just wanna see how this car is actually gonna go. Not straight off the line, like I'm not gonna stop completely, but right, first gear, let's go. You know what? It's actually pretty good. That has shocked me. That really has shocked me. From a little 1 litre, like that actually went really well. Not, like I said, not off the line, but from sort of a very slow roll and start in first. That was impressive. You really do feel that boost come in. Sort of just before 3,000, but then if you keep going, as soon as it hits 4K, it almost feels like it, I don't know. I mean, it just felt like it had a little bit more again. I've got an electric car behind me now, and that is actually trying to push me by the looks, but I'm not gonna go too crazy, but like this thing's quick, you know. I'm really impressed. I am just on some little B roads, like, so it might feel quicker than it is, but I don't know, man. Like this is good. Oh, okay. I've just noticed something going around that corner. So this is totally standard. I mean, there's an air filter on it, but in terms of especially the suspension, this is completely standard, and that is one thing. Like, it doesn't handle badly, but compared to my ST, which is lowered, it's got poly bushes, it's got the anti-roll bar, like all that sort of stuff, I've never really noticed it. That's just become normal to me, but I notice it jumping in this now, that you know, I haven't got those things, and it doesn't have as much to give in the corners. So that's one thing I need to be mindful of. But in terms of the power it's giving you going around those corners, it's actually really good. I'm just, like I say, got to be careful because it doesn't handle quite as well. Oh, brakes are good as well. That's probably something I should have checked a bit earlier. Oh, makes nice little turbo noises as well. I don't know if you'd be able to hear that, but definitely makes nice little turbo noise. So that is one thing I'm excited about. Oh, brake noise, not so good. Squeaky brakes, need to sort that out, but let's give it some through here, because there's some really nice little stretches of road through here. It's just got, oh my god, it has got plenty to give. For a little 1 litre, this is impressive. But I do find I'm having to change gear a lot more than I would in my ST. Like, I'm always having to change down to second to get into that boost to get around and out of the next corner. But it is really good, and it is really sharp as well. Like there, I dropped into third because I know that's a third gear corner in my ST, but in this, you've got to go a gear lower to get into boost and then get that power out. But do you know what? I'm really impressed. Like, I'm putting my foot down because I think, oh, I need to really put my foot down to get anywhere here. And before I know it, I'm having to slow down again. Like, this is, for a 1 litre, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is super fast, but for a 1 litre, this is a quick car. I'm actually blown away by, oh my god. I am actually blown away by this. I can't believe I've actually gone that whole stretch already. This is brilliant. I'm really enjoying this. I really am enjoying this car. Now, I'm not going to kick its head in too much because although I have let the car warm up, I haven't put too many miles on this car just yet. I've been enough to sort of bed the clutch in after we changed that, and obviously I've rebuilt the engine, so I've needed to get those braking miles in, which I have done, but I don't want to kick its head in, like I say, too much on the first drive. But I am really impressed with it. I know I've said that a lot already, but that was really good fun. I think that's pretty much going to do it as far as the driving portion of this. I mean, there's not really too much I think I've got left to say anyway when I get home, but I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to get home and just, yeah, enjoy the car, I think, now, because, I mean, it's proved it works. It's proved, like, it's working well as well. That's a big thing for me. Like, I don't think it would be driving the way I've just been driving it if there was anything majorly wrong with the engine after the rebuild. So that is another thing that I'm really happy about. So I'm going to get home and then, yeah, just enjoy the drive home and give you my final thoughts when I get back. But I'm pretty sure there's not going to be too much that's going to change from what I've said already. So I'll catch up with you in a little bit. Okay, so there we go, I'm back at home, and that was the first drive, and like I've already said many times, I'm really impressed with this car. I'm actually blown away by how good it feels to drive. I was expecting it to be really slow, really boring compared to driving my ST, but I thoroughly enjoyed the first drive in the Mark 7. The only real issue that I've got to pick up on is that awful exhaust, which hopefully I'm having fitted later on this week, and then I'm pretty happy with the car as it sits. Obviously, I still need to do a bit of bodywork and things like that. I need to get a new bonnet, a new bumper, and a few other little bits, but no, I am really impressed with this car, and I think I'm going to really enjoy driving it. But the real test is going to be when this car goes on its first long journey, and that is coming up in a few videos' time. But in the next video, I'm going to be fitting something to this car, which is going to really help me out on those longer journeys. So please stay tuned for that. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.